It's the summer of 2019. Mark and Christine Wathke are driving their Kia Forte into the mountains of Montana. They have no idea they are about to spend 6 days trapped above 10,000 feet, writing goodbye letters to their families. This is the Beartooth Highway, 68 miles of road connecting Red Lodge, Montana to the northeast entrance of Yellowstone National Park. To understand what happened to the Wathkes, you need to understand where they were. Beartooth Pass sits at 10,947 feet above sea level, nearly 2 miles straight up, in a zone where summer snowstorms materialize without warning and temperatures can drop 40 degrees in under an hour. Most people don't realize how much changes at that elevation until they're already experiencing it. The air is thin enough that engines lose power on the climb. The exposed ridgeline means weather can move in from any direction with almost no warning. And unlike a valley road where you can pull over and wait it out, there's nowhere to go at 11,000 feet. In Red Lodge at the base, it might be 72 degrees and sunny. A perfect July day. The kind that makes you leave your jacket in the car. At the summit, that same afternoon, it's 38 degrees and snowing. Most people don't find that out until they're already there, which raises the obvious question: who looked at nearly 11,000 feet of exposed mountain terrain, brutal weather and sheer cliff faces, and decided to build a highway over it? You have to go back to the 1930s. The Great Depression had gutted the American economy. Millions of men were out of work. The federal government needed projects, big ones, that could put people back on payrolls without requiring years of planning. They looked at the mountains of southern Montana and saw an opportunity. There was already a rough trail connecting the ranching town of Red Lodge to the upper plateau of the Absaroka Beartooth Wilderness. Miners had carved it out in the 1890s. It was barely passable on horseback. The idea was audacious: build a paved highway over one of the most technically demanding mountain landscapes in the American West. Not around it, over it. Construction started in the early 1930s. The workforce peaked at around 150 men per day. Depression-era laborers who needed the work badly enough to take a job blasting switchbacks into a mountainside in sub-zero temperatures. They were called gipos. They worked with dynamite, steam shovels, and hand tools. They carved roadbeds out of solid granite. They built retaining walls on cliff faces with drops of hundreds of feet below them. They fought avalanches, rock slides, and blizzards that arrived in every month of the year without warning. 2 workers died during construction. The original road was all gravel, 14 feet wide, barely enough for 2 vehicles to pass without someone pulling their mirror in. On June 14, 1936, the Beartooth Highway opened. Visitors came from as far as California and Maine just to be among the first to drive it. The final cost, $2.5 million, less than half of what the federal government had budgeted. When the Beartooth opens each year, drivers find out pretty quickly what the locals already know. The highway runs 68 miles. Cell service is spotty at best for most of the route, and gone entirely for long stretches. There are no rest stops. Emergency response takes time. When something goes wrong near the summit, help isn't close. There are 3 places to stop. Red Lodge at the eastern base, a real town with gas, food, and motels. Your last comfortable stop before the climb. Top of the World Resort near the summit. A small store and a fuel pump. Limited hours, limited supply. Useful if it's open, but not something you want to depend on. Cook City at the western end. A small community at the Yellowstone border. A few hundred people, a gas station, a handful of restaurants. That's about it. The highway is open roughly late May through mid-October, depending on the snowpack. The rest of the year, it closes, sometimes under several feet of snow that doesn't clear until early summer. The closure itself isn't always obvious from the outside, though. There's no automated barrier at every access point, just signage at the approach, and GPS systems that don't always reflect current road conditions have sent drivers onto the highway well after it's shut down for the season. In the summer of 1947, a weekend blizzard hit Beartooth Pass during what should have been a normal tourist season. Nearly 70 visitors were stranded on the highway, some of them in drifts 15 feet deep. 3 required hospitalization. 3 Park Service employees sent up to help them were buried in avalanches. None of them made it back. That happened in summer. Snow on the Beartooth isn't a winter problem. It's a year-round reality at nearly 11,000 feet. The pass sits high enough that storms can develop and arrive faster than any forecast can track. A driver leaving Red Lodge on a clear 70-degree morning can reach the summit an hour later to find snow on the road and visibility down to a few hundred feet. It doesn't always build gradually. Sometimes it just arrives. Summer thunderstorms follow the same pattern. They come in fast, drop hail, soak the road, and move on. But in the time they're present, conditions change enough that a road that felt manageable on the way up feels different on the way down. In June 2019, a driver from North Dakota got caught in a late-season blizzard on the Wyoming side of the pass. The highway had been open. The weather turned. Drifts reached 4 feet in spots. It took a National Park Service plow truck and a highway patrol trooper most of the night to reach him. He told them he hadn't planned on snow. It had been 90 degrees when he left North Dakota. That gap between what the weather looks like where you started and what it actually is at the summit is what catches most people off guard on the Beartooth. The Beartooth is one of the most popular motorcycle roads in America. It shows up on nearly every published ranking. The combination of sweeping curves, technical switchbacks, and open mountain views makes it genuinely appealing to ride on a good day. And so every summer, thousands of riders make the trip. Most of them are fine. But the crash reports from Montana and Wyoming Highway Patrol tell a consistent story. In July 2023, a rider heading north on Highway 212 failed to negotiate a curve and hit 2 motorcycles coming the other way. 1 person died. 4 were injured. In a separate incident, a 70-year-old rider from Havre didn't make a turn, drifted onto the shoulder, hit a rock bed, and was pronounced dead on scene. His passenger was airlifted to Billings. The pattern across most of these incidents is the same: a curve that wasn't negotiated correctly. Sometimes speed is a factor. Sometimes it's weather. Sometimes conditions that looked manageable at the start of the turn weren't by the end of it. The Beartooth has that characteristic on a lot of its corners. Curves that tighten as they go. Grades that change your braking distance mid-corner. Road surface that shifts from sun-warmed asphalt to shadow-cooled, potentially damp pavement within a few hundred feet. It's a road that rewards familiarity. First-timers, no matter how experienced they are on other roads, are working with incomplete information every corner they take. And when something does go wrong near the summit, getting help there takes time. The terrain doesn't make it easy for anyone. Breakdowns happen on the Beartooth every season. Overheated engines on the climb up. Blown tires on road debris with no spare in the trunk. Fuel tanks that weren't full at Red Lodge and don't make it to Cook City. None of these are unusual problems. They just happen in an unusual place. When a vehicle goes off the road near the summit, recovery is a complicated operation. The truck that rolled off near the Interpretive Center parking lot couldn't even be seen from the highway. A reporter making calls to multiple agencies was initially told by Wyoming Highway Patrol there was no vehicle over the mountain and no stranded driver. It took investigators hiking to a separate vantage point just to confirm the accident had happened. The recovery bill ran into 6 figures. The federal officer on scene put it plainly: "Who is that type of insurance policy for recovery?" Emergency response time on the Beartooth depends heavily on where exactly the incident happens and what the weather is doing when it happens. A helicopter evacuation needs a weather window. Ground crews take time just reaching the summit under normal conditions. In shoulder season, when traffic is light, a stranded driver can wait a long time before anyone stops. The Montana Department of Transportation and Wyoming Highway Patrol Both monitor the highway and respond to incidents. But the road covers 2 states, multiple jurisdictions, and some of the most remote terrain in the lower 48. Coordination takes time. There are no marked emergency shelters along the route for the public, no call boxes, no guaranteed cell signal to call for help in the first place. The practical reality is straightforward. If something goes wrong between Red Lodge and Cook City, you're managing it yourself until help can get there. How long that takes depends on factors that are mostly out of your control. The Beartooth has been drawing visitors since the day it opened in 1936. But something shifted in the last 20 years. In 2002, the federal government officially designated it an all-American road, a classification reserved for routes considered destinations in their own right, with features that don't exist anywhere else in the country. The designation brought more attention, more coverage, more people adding it to their list. Then social media did the rest. Photos from the summit started circulating, the switchbacks visible from above, the alpine lakes, the highway disappearing into the distance with nothing but peaks on every side. The kind of image that's easy to share and hard to forget. Motorcyclists in particular took notice. The American Motorcyclist Association eventually voted it the #1 motorcycle ride in the United States. The result is a road that now carries a version of every kind of driver. If you make it over Beartooth Pass, the road levels out into a wide plateau on the western side before it starts dropping again. The descent is gradual at first, alpine lakes on both sides, the terrain opening up. Then the switchbacks begin again, and the grade picks up. Coming down from the pass into the valley, you're looking at over 6% grade for several miles, long enough that brake management becomes something you actually have to think about, not just background noise. At the bottom, Cook City appears, a small cluster of buildings at the Montana-Wyoming border, right at the Yellowstone northeast entrance. A gas station, a bar, a few motels, a small grocery, a few hundred full-time residents who have chosen to live at the end of a road that closes for 7 months every year and goes nowhere once Yellowstone shuts its winter gates. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you want to see